Hi, I'm part of the large famous game studio Vibes LLC, and I've just completed a game jam 1 month ago. Okay, so I opened itch.io/jams and poked around thinking about how I could possibly delete a whole week from my life this time. None of them ever sound that good. You're always looking through the list, and they either start last week, they have some weird time frame, like 3 hours, or they have stupid rules. After a few minutes of browsing through the game jams, unless you count the 8 months of browsing through the game jams where I didn't pick one, I picked one called Games Made Quick. Now it's 7 days long, that's a good non-crunch time frame. It, won't decimate a whole weekend. It'll decimate 2. Also, it was hosted by Evie, who is a person that I've heard of, and I think never tried PHP because of. Okay, so the jam starts. Me, not home. I'm walking around Prospect Park. It's snowy as hell. Me and my girlfriend are looking at ducks. There's a bunch of birds and stuff. I realize the jam starts, so I take a look at the page, and guess what? No theme. I should have noticed that there wasn't a theme. I hate when there's no theme. I want just anything to take me from any game that's possible to make to a game that I'm making this week. Just go to a word generator, pick the first word, slap it in your game jam, and that'll satisfy dumbasses like me. You can make it optional, that's fine. Fortunately, my girlfriend is smart and interrupted my meltdown about game jams without themes to suggest 3 themes that were shockingly good, made just for me. And they were underwater, 90s grunge music, and bird's eye view. Couldn't come up with a list that good in 20 minutes. So we're at the park looking at ducks and geese and swans. They're doing all sorts of cute shit in the pond. It rules. Super recommend. So I'm thinking about kind of zen games with that, like a pond. Maybe you could get underwater and birds in the same theme. I didn't do any of that shit. I decided to make a game about flying in the summertime in mountains. Just throwing away inspiration. So the main game that I took inspiration from is called Superflight. I really like Superflight. It's chill to just put on. It works great with listening to a podcast because you zone into the controls, but it doesn't take your full focus, or you don't have to think that hard. It just feels good to play while you're doing something else. It's got this procedurally generated world you fly around in. It's just endless visual and feeling good. You don't have to be doing something else. You can just chill out with some Superflight. Alright, I was thinking about making something similar to Superflight, but with more bird-like flight physics, maybe you flap or something. That Spyro the Dragon thing where you slow down at the end of your glide. Yeah, I thought that would be cool. A little more control options to this. Also, maybe a different goal. Maybe some resource collection. Something other than flying close to stuff for points I thought could be fun. And of course, tight controls. No procedurally generated worlds because this is a week and my ambitious scopes, not that ambitious. Okay, maybe I thought about doing it at first, but then maybe I had to be talked out of it. Okay, so I started researching other games that were like this. I thought there had to be something similar to Superflight that I just maybe missed. Life Slide was one. Life Slide was one. The next bit of research, I pop open Superflight to get a feel for the controls. I should have done this for longer. So in Superflight, at first glance, it seems like they're doing pitch and roll for your flight options, and then you turn by rolling and pitching into it. You've seen planes. But it turns out, I noticed several days later, after ruining my life trying to make these controls work, what they're actually doing is, nice and simple, pitch and yaw. Go up, go sideways, and then you just add a little cosmetic roll on there, and boy, that's gonna cause issues too. Anyways, this is where we get into the meat of the story of how I went absolutely wild with flight physics for a full week and made a bad game. Alright, so my first instinct for adding flight controls and movement is to just simulate flight. Don't do this. So I poked around for some tutorials. I found a very detailed one. I started messing around. All these parameters. There's 6 flight parameters. Wow, I am bad at copying code. I get a third of the way through. I disagree with some of the artistic liberties that the tutorial artist has taken. I start moving stuff around, making changes. I want to make it my own, fit it into my code. And then I get 2/3 of the way through the tutorial and I'm just, what I have is nothing like what they have. And it's not working and I can't fix it because I didn't copy theirs. They should just code better in tutorials. Thank you, tutorial makers. I'm sorry for roasting you. Your code gets the job done and teaches me valuable skills. So anyways, I played with this trying to like get these 6 parameters to work for a little bit and then I gave up. I ran away. I complained to my girlfriend. She sent me a tutorial that I had skipped over earlier. Guess what? It had the answer that I wanted. Animation curves. Rather than trying to like define all this math to get the curve just to be the right thing, you just make the curve. You just slap it right in there and then you can see what the value is at a certain point. And so you can fully just do a visual approximation rules. Unfortunately, you know me, always a dumbass, editing the example code as I go. End up wrestling with angle of attack and quaternions for several hours. But eventually, after lots of fighting with it, I kind of got it working and it felt like absolute trash for my game. Floaty, weird, unresponsive, just not at all close to the feeling I wanted. Probably physically inaccurate also. Again, did a pretty bad job. Don't know if I fully got it working. I remembered at this point that there's a Discord server for this community around this game jam, and I thought I'd check out what the other participants were up to. It was a little furrier than I expected. Yeah, so there's a variety of like strange, weird, unfinished games, and then a couple of pretty cool, tight, small ones who picked a reasonable scope and nailed it. We'll see where I end up. Anyways, by the end of the game jam, my only contribution to the Discord server was that I accidentally typed Unity into the chat box instead of my start menu. Just to throw a timeline on this, it's Saturday now. All these failed controls got me to Saturday, a day and a half left in the game jam. I was not emotionally prepared to look at controls again. I was over it, they were bad, my game was bad. So on Saturday, I sat down and did some Blender modeling. I spent a couple hours modeling like a really cool bird that I felt good about. It did make my game a lot better to look at when I went back to the controls. Definitely recommend, doing a little bit of art early on. Just makes it less disheartening. I also spent 2 hours adding a skeleton to my bird that I didn't use at all, so don't do that. Wow, it's Sunday, the last day of the game jam. I have a bird and nothing else almost. A test scene, it kinda goes forward. Alright, so today's the day. We're doing controls. We're getting it done. Fuck all that physics shit. We're coding all this by hand. We got kinematic character controller, baby. This makes no goddamn sense, but it feels good. So kinematic means you're coding where it goes instead of relying on the physics engine. This is super lame and not cool, but also has better results and is less finicky a lot of the time, whatever. If you ask your friend who kinda knows about making games what kind of character controller you should make, they're gonna say kinematic. They might not describe it as kinematic, but they will mean that if you dig deep enough. They will say don't use physics unless they're a freak. Alright, so I started slapping in script-wide variables for things like velocity. We're keeping track of it manually. We have to move all of our shit from the amazing fixed update to the shitty lame update. We're manually calculating gravity. This is where I finally opened Superflight again and realized that I didn't realize how their controls worked and I wasted all my time. Alright, so we're on the pitch and yaw train now. The pitch and yaw plane now. Train's mostly thrust. So we're going up and down, going left and right. Now we gotta add that cosmetic roll because it really helps with the feel. Just a quick little twist while we're yawing. How long did that take? 3 hours. Turns out, kind of bug prone because you gotta move one model and not the other. And Euler angles don't like negative angles, so you gotta do like an offset. And then you're using quaternions, and you can always get into trouble with quaternions. Alright, so when I said we were pitching and yawing, we're actually just yawing. I lied, the pitch wasn't working earlier. Flying up and down, necessary. Okay, so obviously when you are flying up and down, if you pitch up, then gravity turns down a little bit and you start going up. And that's not how it works, but it's how it works in my game. I accidentally sort of invented negative lift, anti-lift, grav up. angle of gravity. But our friend's animation curves came back and made it easy. Okay, so with most of these approaches, I kept running into this issue where angle of attack is like only specified in positive degrees above the horizontal. And so like as soon as you pitch down, it's nobody says what this is. Like NASA won't even acknowledge negative angles. Is this what they teach you in flight school? Like, I don't know, you just have to like feel it. You just have to feel the plane to understand what it's like to point down. A negative angle of attack is all vibes, baby. And then if you do just make it a negative number, then it's like, or it doesn't quite make sense on the animation curve. You can't loop it all the way around. Spoiler angles hate negative numbers. We've talked about this. Okay, so we actually have like a working controller. It feels okay. I think you increase in speed infinitely over time, which is not ideal, but no one will be playing this game that long anyways because it's not fun. At this point, I have accepted that the scope of my game is flying around for peace and vibes. Alright, so this is where we do the rest of the game. You'll notice that so far we've only done flight physics, and it's the last day and we have to make everything else. For the art style, I picked a palette from lowspec.com. It's easy and stops it from looking like complete ass like it would if I just picked all the colors according to my bad taste. So at this point the camera is just statically behind the bird, and that doesn't feel great. Cinemachine basically gave me a pretty good camera as soon as I dropped it in my project. You know your boy tweaked it for half an hour anyways. There's no sound in my game. I simply gave up. I probably could have found some like royalty free or generative music. Obviously not programming generative music. That's a lot to take on right now. But downloading some. Also some sound effects would have been nice. Like some wind going by. Like I probably could have just like made some wind noises into my mic. Let's try it. Yeah, so that would have helped a lot. Alright, I needed some terrain. I needed, a nice place to fly around in. Yeah, so I've dabbled with the Unity terrain system in like a Udemy course that I finished 10% of. Don't worry, it was on sale. Yeah, so I just kind of tweaked it and added like a pretty basic weird terrain that is shitty, but there's mountains now. Yeah, so then I made some trees in Blender, auto-populated thousands of them into my terrain, turned up the render distance until it started to cause performance problems, and I didn't turn it back down. And I made some rocks, which I, of course, did not use. And then post-processing, because my game looked bad and I wanted it to look good. And that's what post-processing does. It fixes everything. Add some bloom, get that hazy summer feel. I didn't add fog, which would have actually given me that hazy summer feel. Yeah, this also is fortunately pretty easy. Unity's got a solid post-processing stack, although it's in like 3 places for some reason, so I'll probably use the tutorial for it every time. Also, it moved from the old place that it was in, so you gotta find a recent tutorial. Maybe not too recent, if you're using LTS. Ugh, Unity. Color grade everything a little bit orange. It's hot. Make the shadows a little bluer because I took a bunch of color grading tutorials in 2015 and don't know how to do anything else. Yeah, so with post-processing, my game was able to become AAA processing power, D aesthetics. Alright, here it is, bird's eye view. Wow, this big reveal at the end of the video does not feel good without sound. I super wish that I had added it to the game. That is a lesson learned. I will never again release a game without sound. Yeah, so I learned about overscoping again. We had to cut some features like the ground being a hard object. Also, don't point straight up or straight down. I think next time I will start with a kinematic controller. I think it also would have been good to like start with a very basic, like not fun controller. Like literally just like flying towards the direction you're pointing with no gravity, I think would have maybe let me experiment with some other parts of the game earlier on. Maybe I'll do a 2D project. I feel like that would help me break some bad habits. Yeah, I definitely prefer 3D to 2D. I just like have more creative ideas there. 2D games just feel like less unique and interesting to me, but it would probably be a good exercise to just like crank out a platformer or a twin stick shooter, even though a ton of those already exist, especially in game jams. But yeah, here's my stupid game. You can fly around. It kind of feels nice. isn't entertaining for more than a minute or two. If you thought that listening to me talk about this was mildly interesting and you would like to see me talk about projects that I actually like, you could subscribe. But you know what? If this was a real dud for you, don't subscribe. If you really liked Bird's Eye View, you can download it for free at itch.io. You can also download it for $60 at itch.io. I don't know why you would. Keep your money. Follow my itch.io page and see my other bad games that I make. Don't share this video with your friends. This is not a share video. This is like a don't want to go to bed, just YouTube algorithm, give me anything that isn't tomorrow video. Oh, I need you to like this video. You can like this video and never see me again. That's allowed. Hit like, hit the never show me this channel again button. That's a big brain move. But also there's no other videos on this channel, so if you subscribe, chances are it will never affect you. I assume most channels that upload one YouTube video never upload another. Alright, anyways, favorite and retweet this. Anyways, upvote and quote tweet this. That's not fucking funny. Alright, well, thanks for watching.